Says excellent stream health, but I don't see anything. Did I miss something here? Oh, hey, there it is. Look at that. Alright. Well, YouTube said we were being naughty. They're kind of fags. You know what? They're not just kinda. Fuck YouTube. Where's my phone and shit? Close that. Close all that. What the hell? Where's my real phone? Listening, learning, always ready to sell us something. Where do I got music playing from? Oh, that's the other stream. Right. That's the stream that got shut down, huh? There we go. I'm like, I'm not even playing music yet. Bitch ass YouTube fucking with me. Alright, so this is the Spatial computing interface, v69. I'm running multiple copies of clones of the Space Desk app to create virtual monitors on the Quest headset for up to 6 different computers. Now, right now, I've got displays up for 2 of my computers. I've connected to up to 3 of my computers. It works very, very well. You can have touch screens at greater than 1080p. 6 touchscreen computer interfaces at up to 1080p inside the headset. Using clones of Space Desk. Made the clones with the website clonemy.app. Ah, sweaty. Come on, give it back to me. Oh, Zuck, give me a depth sensor. Beat. Saber. Oh, Saber. Saber. Yeah, that one. I ain't asking for much. Ooh. I would love to try this with a Quest 3. If anybody, feels like sending the show a Quest 3, we would gladly accept one. Just a thought. So, kind of like I would like a depth sensor. high definition color pass through. I have a strong suspicion that I could use 6 virtual monitors alongside all of my regular real world monitors with that HD pass through. I would be alright with that. Someone just swiped right on me. Where's my keyboard? Oh, there is my mouse. How we doing? Well, we've still dropped some frames, huh? We're still dropping frames, but maybe not so bad. YouTube says I was bad for playing some French film. Me and YouTube don't get along great. We got a fuck you, I hate you relationship, me and YouTube. They're kind of some punk bitches, really. Ugh, nah, I fucked some shit up, probably. Balls. Ooh, let's not do that. Do I have touchscreen turned off on this one? No. Where do you suppose this... grab this and... Where do you suppose it goes? Over here? Yeah. Bam. What do we got going on over here? Oh, we don't need that open right now. Get that open elsewhere. Whoa. We could do some AI magic over here. Now I've got 3 different computers open on the headset, just in case anybody is wondering. We crashing things out yet? Oh, balls. I do need that. And I need to go over here, because I don't have this set up as a virtual display. Where's my mouse? completely lost my mouse. Here we go. Want to add audio input, application audio output capture. Let's do that. Edge. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. I feel like I'm not getting audio. Where's my audio? That clearly didn't work. No, not giving me audio from that. Remove. Yeah. Alright, well, we'll, file, settings, audio. How about that? How about we do that? Now what do we got? Do we got audio? Where the hell's my desktop audio?
For a government document that clearly shows funding for
but I got audio now,
light quantum, bad word, communication actually was underway in 1982.
Should the experiment yield positive results, an immense market exists for pair-correlated photon generation. Research for this device has been conducted.
Lost my mouse again.
No organization presently manufactures such devices. These devices...
America. Hey everybody, it seems that North America, not Europe, is not going to get disclosure from the government. A new 2025 NDAA in Congress has pretty well squashed any government or defense contractor talking about flying saucers or anything to do with that subject. I was privileged to receive this email that clearly says, decades of secrecy, disinformation, and psychological operations absolutely have prevented those wanting to know, yes please, more about what's happening in our skies and oceans across the Earth from achieving a clearer understanding of those anomalous phenomena. Isn't going to happen next year. But as a European living here in France, that is very much a North American problem. I think you, if you're a European viewer, very much have already had disclosure. Catch up, USA. But the truth is actually already out there, as I often say. Today I'm going to share with you a fascinating document from 1982, 40 years ago, clearly showing a US government funding into faster than light speed communication. So a bit of a catch-up. What is FTL, faster than light communication? Well, radio waves, talking to your satellite, talking to the planet Zog, talking to your submarine, all happens at the speed of light.
All right, so
At its fastest, it can be
I can't
slower.
play you
That's
guys
not
anything
fast
on
enough
Movie
for
HD
two
anymore,
very
I
good
guess.
reasons. First of all, in today's military, you
Guess we gotta just. Oh,
really need to be faster than the speed of
I
light
like it to
because
the little
gives you
window.
an immense
There we go.
advantage over an enemy if you can launch something before they know it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I'm joking,
better.
But just talking to your
Alright, let's
assets
just-
through the wireless satellites, which
Hi,
often
Professor
happens,
Howland.
needs to be as fast as damn possible. And my inside knowledge reveals that that actually is deployed today. Many militaries have so-called
YouTube says I'm a
quantum
bad boy.
communications that can actually speak to a distant asset faster than a radio signal. But the other reason that you would need FTL communication is to cover the vast distances of space. Even talking to your little robot
I
on
feel like
Mars can take up to
touchscreen's
30
turned off on
minutes,
that monitor,
depending on
which
how
it may
far
be.
away Mars is from Earth. And
I do that.
varies. Just imagine you wanted to reply to an alien civilization that's maybe 20.
I'm a bad
100,
boy.
1,000 light years away. Well, hang on a minute. 1,000 light years means a radio.
How's
message
everybody doing
would
today?
take 1,000 years to get there.
We are
And
running
1,000 years. I mean, it's just not practical.
six-
But we're all told. a bit
Well,
like
we're running
fusion
currently
reactors,
4
it's all 30 years in the future.
different virtual
Well,
monitors.
I
I've
think it
cloned
is. But today
Space
I'm gonna
Desk
share with you something
to
rare
create
we've
virtual
seen.
monitors
An
on my
internal
Quest 2 headset.
American
I have-
CIA, DARPA government document
I have
that clearly
4
shows
monitors
funding
currently
for
representing 3
faster-than-light
machines.
Quantum, bad word, communication actually
Got a
is
virtual
underway
secondary
in
monitor over here,
1980s.
virtual secondary monitor over here,
Should the
virtual
experiment
primary,
yield
and
positive
virtual
results,
primary
an
here.
immense market exists for
This is an
peer-correlated
i3, I
photon
think,
generation.
i5,
Research for this
i7,
device
something like
has
that,
been
or not,
conducted.
not an i5.
No organization
one's,
presently manufactures such devices. These devices
Fourth
would be
gen,
miniaturized for commercial use.
Xeon.
The Dr. Sarfati pair
That's also
correlated
fourth
photon
gen
switching devices are
i3,
capable
maybe
of
i5.
operating faster and at greater
That's
capacities
a
than
4th
those
gen
in
i5,
current
i7
state-of-the-art
over here.
computers and communication systems. Specific applications include the devices would eliminate the present requirement for subminiaturization and supercooling. The devices would provide elements capable of operating faster than currently used silicon chips. Military secure communications, unjammable and untappable, could be provided the military and command control communications for submarines. Warning. NASA deep space probes and in key elements of the Strategic Defense Initiative now under consideration in Washington. Certain defensive weapon systems that would obsolete the need for nuclear weaponry. Other improvements could be made in spin resonance medical diagnostic instruments, in molecular design of pharmaceuticals, and in genetic engineering. New quantum telescopes could be developed, as well as potentially new superphysics energy sources, zero-point vacuum phase transitions. Jack says that if in fact we can control the faster-than-light non-local effect, it would be possible, using something like the molecular dissociation approach, to make an
Oh, I
untappable
just
and
pushed the buttons.
unjammable command control communication system at very high bit rates for use in the submarine fleet.
Hi.
The important point is that since there is no ordinary electromagnetic or acoustic signal linking the encoder with the decoder in such a hypothetical system,
I would like to
there is
have.
nothing for the enemy to tap or jam. The enemy would have to have actual possession of the black box decoder to intercept the message. The device reliability would not depend
So this
on
works pretty
separation
well.
of the encoder, and not affected
Using
by
Space
incident
Desk,
or weather
using
conditions.
multiple clones of
Research
Space
and
Desk, I'm able to
engineering
bring my
office of the
phone
Undersecretary
into
of Defense,
VR
Washington, D.C.
on via my Windows PC and the Phone Link app,
action at a distance theories to secure communication systems could
which
be
is
of
kind of
interest
nice.
to the Department of Defense.
I'm able to bring up to 6 individual computers in my headset for some massive distributed spatial computing.
Dr. Sarfati's
I
device
really would
development
like to get a hold of a
along
Quest
these
3
lines
so I
would
could
aid our
try
determination of the potential benefits offered by this
this
research
stuff
and
with
in
a real
arranging
depth
for any
sensor and a
appropriate
high
further
definition
discussions.
pass through to
Thank you very much for your
camera
interest in the research
system.
and development programs of the
But
Department of Defense.
until somebody's ready to
In
send me a
April
Quest 3, I
1985,
suppose this is what
an
we
American
got.
theoretical physicist completed final work on a theory which, if proved in laboratory tests, alters the fundamental scientific interpretation of quantum mechanics and our general understanding of the universe. His calculations represent the next logical
You know,
step
you might
in the theoretical physics work of Albert Einstein, Boris Podolsky, Nathan Rosen, and David Bohm. This new
If you guys have noticed here, I'm actually streaming, in addition to using these virtual monitors, I'm able to stream from this piece of shit over here, okay, Minnie Mouse, the little i3 or i5, I don't know, we could check out the system information real quick. Where's my mouse, where's my mouse? Right here.
Military, intellectual, religious, social,
Let's go ahead and have a
scientific
look
levels
here.
of society would be profound. The physicist has also conceptualized the first two basic devices, representing the practical,
System.
economic application of the hypothesis. Patent work is
What are we
underway
looking
for both
at?
devices.
This little piece of shit?
The Quantum Research Development Corporation
It is an
was organized
i5
in March
with 16
1985 to
gigabytes of
harness the economic
DDR3
strategic potential
RAM.
offered.
This is,
SARFIT hypothesis holds that
I believe it's a
there is a
fourth
faster-than-light
generation
solar
i5
wind
over
action at a
here
distance effect
with a
that
very
can be harnessed for
low-end,
practical
old
use in communication systems.
NVIDIA graphics
Oh, that was
card
very, very interesting. It just means that
handling
if
the
they funded
workload.
it and looked at it in 1982, now in 2024,
This one here,
it's been deployed. I guess documents like that reveal
the one I like to call Mighty Mouse,
is out there.
it's actually streaming us to meet me. What are we running over here? 16 gigs of RAM, that again is DDR3, and this is the Xeon processor. Pretty sure it's a 4th gen. Yeah. And then this over here, this is Beastie. This is my i7. I do know that this one over here is an i7. When do I get to that screen, though? Ah, there we are. Anything interesting? The dead internet there? This is probably not worth watching, but why not, right? Why do I feel like my mouse is not actually showing up where it's supposed to? That's weird. Oh, it's seeing a touch where it shouldn't. When we're doing
This
that
video
shit
is
again,
sponsored
huh?
by the online personal information removal service, Incogni. Protect your data and personal information from data brokers and search sites. Use my link in the description to get 60% off Incogni's annual plan. On Tuesday, December
Anyways,
15th,
guys,
1970, Season 2, Episode 12.
this is the
aired the
v69
comedy sketch show
Spatial
on Python's Flying Circus.
interface.
The title of the
doohickey.
episode was Spam. In the episode,
in
there
action
was a sketch
on the Quest
also
2
titled Spam,
headset.
in which a husband and wife
Of course,
were
I'm
lowered on
doing
wires into a cafe
some
filled
extra
with
magic
bridesmaids.
here that
Once sat, the
lots of
husband
other
and wife
people aren't
asked the
privy
waitress what
to.
the meals available at the cafe. The waitress
if anybody
proceeds
else
to
has
describe
tried
its
this
menu
out,
items
I'd
to
love
the
to
public.
hear from you guys. Let
Nearly
me know how it
every
worked
item
out for you.
has the canned meat,
Running
spam
multiple
in it.
copies of Space
Some dishes
Desk.
are just spam with multiple sides of spam. Spam, 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 egg, and spam. One dish is described as. When the woman customer declares that she does not like
Yeah.
spam and she wants a meal without any, the waitress denies her request, and suddenly the Vikings around them begin to sing. Spam, 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 spam. Lovely spam. Wonderful spam. The interaction devolves further and further as the Vikings' chants and waitress's screams in support of spam increase, droning out the conversation into indiscernible absurdity. Then, the sketch essentially ends, and the customer, we can reasonably assume,
I don't know.
does not get a meal without
I'm boring, I
salmon.
suppose, right? Maybe we could.
Although this Monty Python
Play a
sketch
game?
had nothing to do with media or
We've
the
got plenty of
internet,
bootleg
it would
games.
strangely and powerfully foreshadow forthcoming conditions of media and the internet, and it would ultimately lead directly to the term spam being used in internet vernacular.
What is
In the
happening
context
right
of
now?
media and the internet, the term spam broadly refers to excessive, irrelevant, unwanted, insincere,
There we
or
go.
repeated communication or content. As a result of the Monty Python sketch, in the 1980s, in early online
is
chat
not
rooms, message boards,
my
and virtual
gestures very
games,
well.
users would repeatedly type spam along with other quotes from the Monty Python sketch in order to knock the text of other unwanted users or competitors down and off screen and gatekeep discourse.
Oh,
Around the
Gotta
same
go all the
time,
way over.
the term spam would also come to be used to
How far
refer to
over?
the repeated
There we
and
go.
excessive posting of the same messages on file and message sharing networks. Of course, it only helps and is all the more fitting that spam, the canned meat, is highly processed and unhealthy, high in calories, fat, and sodium, and low in nutrients. Since the 1980s, media and the internet have, of course, evolved tremendously. Between 1981 and 1989, the number of hosts connected to the internet
Give me a
went from
depth
hundreds
sensor.
to hundreds of thousands, with an increase from 80,000 to over 160,000
hey, we're
hosts
still live.
in 1989 alone. Also in 1989, the World Wide
Absolutely
Web
nobody
was
watching.
created, which,
That's
for the
awesome.
first time, made digital content easily reachable and shareable for
Right.
the average consumer. By the mid-1990s, there were over 100,000 websites on the web. Around 40% of American households owned a computer, which was just 15% a couple years prior. Suddenly, new opportunities for connection and creativity abounded. For the first time in history, individuals could easily message people across the world in chats, publish and share their art and homemade videos, create digital profiles in digital stores, purchase and download things like movies and books, order physical goods to be delivered to their home, and innumerable other unbelievable and world-changing acts. Now, as of 2024, it's estimated that
There, I
around
like that on the
70%
floor like that.
of the global population owns
See?
a smartphone. That's roughly
I threw my
5
phone
billion
down there on the
people.
floor.
It's also now estimated that there are well over 1 billion websites.
It's out of the way
and the
down
average
there.
person currently spends around 6
love it.
hours and 35 minutes online every day. Needless to
still
say,
love a depth
internet and
sensor.
Internet devices have fully
Seriously,
consumed us,
a depth sensor
and
would
the
plug right
conditions
into the
of
USB
internet
port.
are crucially important to the human experience. Of course, along with new opportunities for the distribution of enriching things on the internet, so too have new opportunities for the distribution of problems and
Whoops,
hazardous
what happened
content
there?
evolved on the internet. One of which is spam and spam-like media. For the sake of clarity, spam and spam-like media here
Come on,
includes
Zuck, you
anything
know
from
it.
unwanted emails all the way to digital content that unreasonably
Whoa,
exploits
nothing's
platform
connected up here.
algorithms,
What's going on?
automation, and/or excessive
I want
posting,
this one.
often for the sole purpose of views and engagement. The problem of spam might appear somewhat trivial at first, especially when considered against much darker activities and possibilities on the internet. But the increasing development and thriving of spam-like media points to a deep, holistic problem about the current architecture and future of the internet and humanity at large. The internet, in its current form, does not merely have spam on the menu.
It's not.
The menu is, in many ways, increasingly that of the
There-
Monty
there
Python
we go.
Cafe. All menu items
Feel a
on
lot better
offer
about that.
seem to contain spam in some form. And worse, our palates seem to be increasingly burnt and numb by this to actually desire it, to enjoy less and less of the nuanced flavors that we previously did. As both creators and consumers of media, many of us seem to want quicker, easier, and more processed content, which often doesn't challenge or require much of us, and we are increasingly willing to ignore the intentions and consequences of said content. Inspired and led by philanthropic beasts, herds of Viking creators chase watch time.
All right, well,
as
it's nice to
audiences
see that
welcome the
somebody's
approaching with
watching.
eager eyes. There's a
Say
theory
hi.
about the internet that has recently garnered increasing notoriety, largely as a result of the mainstream introduction and popularization of generative AI.
I don't like to be
The theory is
challenged.
known as the
That's
dead
true.
internet theory. The origins of the theory primarily trace back to an anonymous thread
Philanthropic
created in
beasts.
2021 on the Agora Roads Macintosh Cafe forum. Its origins, specifics, and conspiratorial nature are rather questionable, but the broad sentiment, at least now, feels somewhat
don't.
valid. Putting aside the conspiratorial and paranoid claims of the theory, most broadly, the theory suggests that most online activity is fake in some way, either bot activity or AI-generated content created and curated by algorithms. Because of this, according to the theory, the internet, as a source of unbridled human activity and flourishing, died somewhere around the year 2016. In that same year of 2016, a cybersecurity company by the name of Imperva,
someone
in
just
fact,
swiped
did
my-
find that bots, or software
Blah, blah,
applications that
blah.
perform automated tasks without human intervention, accounted for over half of all online activity. They also found that around 30% of website visits likely came from bad bots or programs designed to carry out harmful actions like theft and hacking. The other roughly 20% of bots, however, were found to be good bots, or bots that help monitor and upkeep aspects of the internet. This was nearly 10 years ago. We can more than reasonably assume that those numbers have gone up since then. Of course, these percentages include the entire internet in all corners and pockets, so it's not necessarily the case that the majority of the content and websites you personally consume and visit are fake, assuming you engage in reasonably well curated and stable websites and platforms. But the point is, no matter who you are, how savvy you are, and what you do on the internet, there is no avoiding fake content and fake traffic, and even more so, there is certainly no avoiding spam-like content. This year, in 2024, Jack Conte, the founder and CEO of the creator monetization platform Patreon, gave a keynote at the conference South by Southwest titled Death of the Follower and the Future of Creativity on the Web. The focus of his presentation was primarily on the development and effects of algorithmic feeds on social media and content distribution platforms. Specifically, Conte's argument is that major platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have moved primarily into algorithmic ranking-based content distribution feeds and away from follow-based feeds. In other words, internet content is distributed based on computer algorithms that rank content using metrics of engagement like watch time, and not based on people selectively and intentionally curating what is shown to them based on who they follow or subscribe to. As a result, according to Conte, this has caused content creators and their audiences to become increasingly pulled apart. In my opinion, Conte says, the follow is not some handy feature of a social network. The follow is foundational architecture for human creativity and organization. With the follow becoming less central to content distribution, content creators increasingly need to create for an algorithm rather than for a clear audience or fan base. Conte says, for the first time since Web 2.0, my followers might not necessarily see my posts, and the idea of a subscription started to break down. If a person doesn't receive the thing I make, it's not really a direct true connection between a creator and their fans. It's not really a subscription. The channel of distribution is broken, and it creates another problem too around creative freedom, because now suddenly my post has to be better than the other posts according to a set of criteria that I don't know or have control of, or even agree with. So instead of thinking, what do I want to make? What lights me up? What is the output that I want to create as an artist? What will my fans love? Instead of thinking about those questions, now, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what will the ranking algorithm favor? And that, subconsciously or consciously, changes my creative output to achieve the platform's goals, not my goals as a creator. The primary goal for almost all social media platforms is to make money. The primary means of achieving this goal for most platforms is through advertising revenue. And the primary means of generating, sustaining, and growing ad revenue is by attracting as many users to the platform and then keeping users on the platform as long as possible. At the scale of major social media platforms, algorithmic-based ranking feeds seems to achieve this the best. As a result, algorithms have increasingly taken control over what we see and the direction in which online media and content goes. We are thus being increasingly led by these algorithms with no clear aim in terms of benefit to the individual or culture at large. The cause and endgame are merely profitability. Of course, algorithms are not inherently bad, and they could provide great opportunities for things like discoverability for creators and consumers. Furthermore, pursuing watch time in algorithms isn't inherently always bad either, as it can be useful for improving one's work. But a major problem is, under these conditions, one of the forms of media and content that prospers is either full-on spam or media that has a flavor of spam to it. In order to appease algorithms and either forge or maintain a career and social relevancy, creators might change their content format, category, or topics from what they are primarily interested in to what's popular and what works, often leading to blatant copying, repetitiveness, redundancy, dumbing down, carelessness, or excessively frequent posting. Otherwise, they might risk inevitably being overlooked by the algorithms and forgotten by anyone who is not in their most core audience. These problems of fake traffic, algorithmic disconnect, and spam media have only become increasingly worse with the introduction and mainstream use of generative AI. Now, AI models can message humans in chats and message other AI models, create digital art and video content, create and manage digital profiles in stores, determine and execute purchases and economic decisions, as well as innumerable other unbelievable and world-changing acts. But now, humans are less and less involved. Hence, the internet is, at least in the way it once was, dead. In its wake, a new sort of internet is emerging. What this new form will ultimately become, how it will feel, what help and harm, positives and negatives it might cause, will only be known in time. But what does appear to be certain is that AI is only going to get better, and the problems of disconnection, fakeness, and spam-like media are only going to get worse. Of course, generative AI is not all bad, and there are countless great applications for it, both currently and foreseeably. But if we are not careful, more than anything else, our digital diets will continue to become unhealthier and unhealthier. It will be increasingly difficult to hear and make sense of anything, to want to hear and make sense of anything, to find and get what we want to order. It is not hopeless, though. Hopefully, in time, there will be reasonable regulations around AI and internet media. Hopefully, new technologies will also help mitigate against some of the existing and forthcoming problems and execute effectively on reasonable policies and cultural expectations. If history is to be considered, it seems that this is certainly on the table of possibilities. But of course, if history is to be considered, regulations and new technologies designed to restrain bad actors and bad technologies are always, at least a little, behind the people and technologies they are designed to catch. Perhaps in some sense, at least for now, it is up to us, creators and consumers of content, founders and users of platforms. There is a famous saying that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. A more up-to-date version of this might be that we are the average of the 5 creators and 5 content categories we spend the most time on the internet consuming. Arguably, now and into the future, making decisions about what we do and engage with on the internet will be as crucial as the decisions we make regarding our friends and associates. Of course, in some sense, this has always been the case, and determining what media we consume has always been crucial. But crucial is a spectrum, and now it is highly. Ultimately, who cares if the dead internet theory is true or not? Who cares if the old internet is dead or not? What matters, arguably, is whether we can and will sustain what matters in new ways in the new conditions of the world and technology. And what matters is what matters to us, our humanity at its truest and deepest levels. As humans, we want to create, communicate, and connect with each other, unabridged and unbridled. We want reasonably healthy and sustainable relationships with others, with ourselves, and with the networks of the world, both physical and digital. We want honesty, we want genuineness, we want symbiosis, we want prosperity. The internet is and can still be a place where this happens. Of course, there will always be the spam cafes, and spam will likely find its way on most menus, and most of us will likely indulge in it on occasion. But like everything else, with discipline, hope, and effort, we can still eat healthy diets. We can still build beautiful restaurants and eateries and communities with minimal spam on the menus. We can still break bread together in meaningful ways. In the words of Conti, the hardest lesson I have learned as a creative person and as an operator and CEO over the last 10 years is to know and trust what I want and to be true to that over time. It's easier said than done, but don't let somebody else tell you what you want, because then you'll end up with what they want instead of what you want. On a somewhat more direct, hazardous level, one problem area where spam inevitably shows up for all of us is junk messages. Emails, robocalls, texts, physical mail, and so on. This sort of spam, however, is not just annoying and bad tasting, but it can actually be dangerous. It can lead not only to relentless junk mail, but also to parties knowing sensitive information about you, which can lead to things like identity theft, scams, stalking, or harassment. That's why this video sponsor, Incogni, a personal information removal service, is such a fantastic fit for this video, and such a fantastic service in general. The reason for the widespread experience of unsolicited, repeated junk mail is because of what are known as data brokers. Without you knowing or giving permission, every time you buy something or fill something out with your information, your name, social security number, login credentials, home address, and so on, the information can then be taken and sold to and by a third party. There are hundreds of data brokers and people search sites who make lots of money doing this. They harvest and collect your data, not to sell things to you, but to sell you to others. In the last few years, I've personally noticed a huge increase in scam-like texts, as well as an email inbox that is nearly impossible to sift through. The good news, legally, you have the right to stop this and have all your information removed from these sites. The bad news, it's essentially impossible to do this on your own. The better good news, Incogni makes it not only possible, but easy for you. All you have to do is go through a short sign-up process, give Incogni permission to work on your behalf, and then they immediately locate and reach out to these brokers and sites and get your information removed. As you might imagine, getting your information removed once might not last forever and might not be a smooth process. But with Incogni's annual plan, they continue to automatically follow up to ensure that your information not only gets removed, but stays removed. You can then track Incogni's progress right on their dashboard as you watch these companies inevitably lose. Click my link in the description or go to incogni.com/pursuitofwonder and you'll get 60% off Incogni's annual plan. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching in general, and see you next video.
Whoa, my balls. What's this?
This video is sponsored by the book summary app, Blinkist. Discover, learn from, and refresh yourself on the world's best books. Use the link in the description and you'll receive a 7-day free trial and 40% off Blinkist Premium membership. George Orwell is perhaps one of the most widely read and referenced literary figures of all time, certainly of the 20th century. Cited and mentioned by nearly every contemporary ideology and political worldview, his voice echoes down the halls of history.
That gets
His
weird.
insights about the power of language and technology, as well as his
where'd my
warnings
phone
about the
go?
manipulation of truth and the threat of
Hey.
totalitarianism, being relevant to
Hi,
rooms
phone.
on both sides of the hall,
Look at this
left
shit,
and
still
right,
working like a
transcend
charm,
the walls
huh?
of any one moment, movement,
Oh.
or ideology. Orwell was born in 1903
Fix
in
that.
Bengal, India, which at the time was part of the British Empire. He was born with the name Eric Arthur Blair and would only become George Orwell many years later, using the name as a pseudonym to protect his family and their reputation as well as his own. As a child, Orwell's
Trooper-duper.
socioeconomic conditions were unusual. His mother, being the daughter of a wealthy man, had the attitude and tastes of someone well off. But by the time Orwell was born, his family had little money, and his father was working as a civil servant. Orwell would later refer to his upbringing as lower upper middle class, a sort of amalgamation of impoverishment and snobbery. After his family returned from India to England, where they were originally from, with the help of some family connections, Orwell was sent to an English preparatory school. Here, both his unusual temperament and his brilliance became apparent, receiving both ridicule from other students, as well as from schools, Wellington, and
Come on,
Cambridge.
bitch.
At an
Thank you.
early age, however, Orwell found the academic environment miserable. And so, he would never go on to university. Instead, in 1922, he entered the British Imperial Service and worked as a colonial police officer.
Swear to God, I did not.
He was
just...
posted in Burma, a province of British India at the time. He also found this experience miserable and conflicting with his
See what that-
values.
There we go.
5 years later, he would resign. Over the subsequent few years, Orwell would
Oh,
work
yeah.
several low-paying service jobs
We were
throughout
watching a
Paris
video.
and London, including a part-time assistant job in a second-hand bookshop. Around this time, he would also begin writing and publishing books of his own, including Burmese Days, A Clergyman's Daughter, and Keep the Aspidistra Flying. Surely influenced by his unique upbringing and his diverse experiences across Burma, France, and London, Orwell would develop a fondness for what he referred to as ordinary people and ordinary life. Individuals who worked normal jobs, were not obsessed with material goods, had minimal education, and didn't strive for nor achieve any sort of prominence, power, or so-called greatness. In contrast, he developed a disdain for intellectuals. Ironically, of course, Orwell would soon become one, perhaps one of the most prominent intellectuals of the 20th century. Orwell's rise to prominence as an intellectual and literary figure can be largely attributed to the catalyzing experiences he had after traveling to Spain in 1936. Initially, he went to Spain as a journalist to report on the Spanish Civil War, but he soon enlisted as a volunteer in the Republican militia to fight against the fascist opposition. If you had asked me why I had joined the militia, I should have answered, to fight against fascism. And if you had asked me what I was fighting for, I should have answered, common decency, Orwell later wrote. During his time in the war, Orwell was shot in the throat and nearly killed by a sniper. Perhaps even more affecting for him, however, was what he witnessed in the coverage and portrayal of the war. Years later, he wrote, "Early in life, I had noticed that no event is ever correctly reported in a newspaper. But in Spain, for the first time, I saw newspaper reports which did not bear any relation to the facts, not even the relationship which is implied in an ordinary lie. I saw great battles reported where there had been no fighting, and complete silence where hundreds of men had been killed. I saw troops who had fought bravely denounced as cowards and traitors, and others who had never seen a shot fired hailed as the heroes of imaginary victories. And I saw newspapers in London retailing these lies, and eager intellectuals building emotional superstructures over events that had never happened. I saw, in fact, history being written not in terms of what happened, but of what ought to have happened, according to various party lines." Orwell's observations revealed to him a degradation of the value placed on objective truth. Objective truth was being replaced more and more by the faith in subjective truths of ideologies and political parties. I am willing to believe that history is for the most part inaccurate and biased, but what is peculiar to our own age is the abandonment of the idea that history could be truthfully written, Orwell wrote. The consequences of this, for Orwell, risk leading to totalitarianism, a form of government in which individuals lack freedom and instead are subordinate to and controlled by the central authority of the state. When there is no belief in objective truth, truth solely exists in the human mind, becoming easily malleable and manipulatable. For Orwell, this threat looms regardless of any specific ideological and political leaning, be it left or right. It is just the common basis of agreement of truth with its implication that human beings are all one species of animal that totalitarianism destroys, he wrote. During the early and mid-20th century, these consequences were unfolding and totalitarianism was spreading, in Germany, Italy, Spain, the Soviet Union, as well as, in Orwell's mind, England and beyond. In response to this, Orwell believed that literature could be used to help warn against this development. It could be used to shed light on the circumstances of the world and help people fend against the increasing threat to freedom, truth, and well-being. What I have most wanted to do throughout the past 10 years is to make political writing into an art. My starting point is always a feeling of partisanship, a sense of injustice. When I sit down to write a book, I do not say to myself, I'm going to produce a work of art. I write it because there is some lie that I want to expose, some fact to which I want to draw attention, and my initial concern is to get a hearing, Orwell wrote. Though Orwell had already written and published several relatively successful books by around the year 1939, his real rise to global mainstream prominence came after the publication of his novella, Animal Farm, in 1945. And it was here that Orwell's mission to spread important ideas and warnings about the threats of the time and future times began to successfully ensue at scale. In Animal Farm, there is no real main character. Rather, the protagonist of the book is a population of anthropomorphized animals living on a farm known as Manor Farm. Each species of animal represents a different archetype or group of humans in society. One day on the farm, a pig named Old Major expresses to the other animals that they are being exploited by humans who own the farm, and, if they work together, the animals can and ought to overtake the humans and create a better future for themselves. A revolution happens, the animals take over, and a new philosophy known as animalism is established. Two pigs named Snowball and Napoleon take lead over the new conditions of the farm, which soon becomes just Napoleon after he has Snowball chased off. Though things appear to go well initially, hell soon breaks loose, and the pigs who lead the farm begin to lead with malice, selfishness, manipulation, and violence, ultimately becoming the equivalent of the humans that the animals had revolted against. The creatures outside look from pig to man, and from man to pig, and from pig to man again. But already, it was impossible to say which was which, reads the final line of the book. Broadly, Animal Farm is a thinly veiled critique of the Russian Revolution and the subsequent rule of Joseph Stalin over the Soviet Union. It showcases and warns against the fallibilities and susceptibilities of revolutionary movements and the potential threats of counter-revolutions. What arguably makes this novella so unique and important, however, is its ability to cut through the surface of any single social or political target and instead reveal timeless truths about social, political, and psychological phenomena, and to do so with animals. In the form of a fable, like that of Aesop or Disney, Orwell brings the complexities of social and political movements into an accessible, easily understandable allegorical format that can appeal to mass audiences across time and space. And that's exactly what Animal Farm did and does, selling 500,000 copies within the first year of publication and then going on to sell millions and millions more. The same year Animal Farm was released, Orwell lost his wife while she was undergoing a routine surgery. Only a year or two later, he began to fall ill himself with tuberculosis. He would, however, muster everything he had left and work on one last book. After collapsing multiple times while writing, his science, speculative, and dystopian fiction novel, 1984, was released in 1949. In brief, 1984 focuses on a character named Winston Smith, who lives in what was once London but is now a province of the superstate of Oceania. Oceania is run by a totalitarian government known as the Party, which follows the doctrines of English socialism, or INGSOC, and is led by a dictator figure known as Big Brother. In Oceania, citizens are under constant surveillance and are ruthlessly punished for even so much as thinking thoughts that counter the party's ideological doctrines. Devices known as telescreens are put in everyone's homes, where they both consume broadcasted content and are constantly observed by the party. What are known as the thought police are also always looming, ready to arrest anyone who commits what are known as thought crimes, or simply thinking the wrong things about the party. Moreover, the party is constantly producing propaganda in the form of manipulated information, data, statistics, and language. Language is simplified and reduced in Oceania through what is known as newspeak, where words are eliminated from the vernacular in order to prevent the likelihood of nuanced critical thinking. Words are also often used in a contradictory manner in order to undermine the true nature of the things they describe. For example, labor camps are referred to as joy camps. Torture takes place in the Ministry of Love. The military is referred to as the Ministry of Peace. The department responsible for falsifying data and facts is known as the Ministry of Truth. And the slogans of Oceania are, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." All of this causes citizens to engage in what is known as doublethink, a sort of cognitive dissonance in which they both have their own perceptions and understanding of what is true, and yet they accept what they are being told by the party as true, despite any contradictions. At the beginning of the novel, Winston writes in his diary, "Down with Big Brother." By the end of the novel, the narrator concludes, referring to Winston, "2 gin-scented tears trickled down the sides of his nose. But it was all right. Everything was all right. The struggle was finished. He had won the victory over himself. He loved Big Brother." Like Animal Farm, 1984 would obtain immediate success, which Orwell was able to witness in his lifetime before dying of tuberculosis the next year in 1950. Ultimately, it is unclear how cynical Orwell truly was, but the cynical endings to his 2 masterworks are, arguably, not a declaration of total hopelessness, but a warning for the potential hopelessness that the future could exhibit, the future we are living in now. Since Orwell's passing, his work has only continued to become increasingly popular and culturally relevant. 1984 is likely one of the most widely read books, certainly of the dystopian speculative genre, finding itself still, 75 years later, a part of many, if not most, high school English literature classes, as well as college courses. Orwell has become one of the few writers in history to have a term created out of his work, Orwellian. Most broadly, Orwellian refers to any conditions reminiscent of Orwell's work, in which the welfare and freedom of citizens are undermined or at the risk of being undermined, typically by a central political power and ideology. But, arguably, Orwellian is not purely defined by totalitarian conditions, but by the means in which totalitarian conditions are carried out. Specifically, it refers to the intentional distortion and manipulation of language and information for the purposes of serving some ulterior power for power's sake. Like Orwell's work itself, however, this term is often misunderstood, misrepresented, or altered in service to whatever cause the user favors, often causes and ideologies that Orwell himself would likely have disagreed with. The term Orwellian can apparently be Orwellian itself. What is clear and important to note, however, is that although the Party of Oceania in 1984 originated from socialism, Orwell was not a critic of socialism. He was a critic of totalitarianism, regardless of its origins or political leaning. He was in fact a proponent of democratic socialism, a political democracy with a socially run, decentralized economy. Every line of serious work that I have written since 1936 has been written directly or indirectly against totalitarianism and for democratic socialism, as I understand it, Orwell wrote. Furthermore, he was anti-capitalist and believed capitalism incentivizes conditions of suffering and leads to small concentrations of power and wealth. This certainly makes those who reference Orwell in favor of capitalism and against socialism, especially and ironically Orwellian. Ultimately, regardless of whether you agree with Orwell or like his writing, there is no denying his influence, and there is no denying the value and relevance of exploring the topics and ideas that he did. His insights into how human psychology plays out in the arena of politics and how the use and control of language influences and controls the thoughts and opinions of a population is likely a timeless and immensely relevant insight to all societies, past, present, and future. His unique ability to use language to convey this insight and warn against the power and influence of language is something only a brilliant writer could even try to do. And his ability to bring incredibly complex and typically dry concepts down into the realm of mass appeal and interest perhaps has helped ensure that the developments of aspects of the world remain on a track that leads to, at the very least, a less dystopian destination. In truth, we are always susceptible to our own malice and ignorance when we aren't paying attention, individually and collectively. Tyranny is not a part of history, it is a part of humanity. Humanity is always on the brink of slipping into it, of chasing the rabbit of hope into dystopian wonderlands. Orwell realized this, that tyranny was always possible and can occur even in a society in which the intentions are noble, or in a society in which the conditions appear prosperous and democratic. Perhaps our only hope, somewhat countering Orwell's view, is realizing that, in fact, there is no ultimate objective truth, at least that we have access to. That subjective truth is likely all there is, and all there will ever be for us. We must accept this as a consequence of our condition of ignorance and limitation, our fragmented perceptions and dissenting values. But perhaps, when we take this realization to the extreme, we realize that all individuals, all groups, all organizations, and all nations are fallible and wrong. There is no one idea or truth to follow or believe in. Perhaps in doing this, we burn up all the fuel of totalitarianism, and, at the bottom of the tank, we find the collective realization of simple decency, the kind in which Orwell advocated for, the kind in which we arrive at mutually beneficial intersubjective truths based on humility and compassion toward the differences and malleabilities of humanity across time and space, rather than an ultimate rightness and finality right now. Of course, this is far, far easier said than done. But in the words of Orwell, when referring to the conditions of 1984, the moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you. Some of the best books we will ever read in our lives are books we have already read, and many books that would completely change our lives are possibly books we will never even come across. Both returning to classic instrumental books from our lives and discovering new books that help further shape our lives are extremely important for expanding our understanding and keenness about ourselves and the world. But with near infinite options of books to choose from, it can be extremely difficult and time-consuming to do this successfully. However, with this video's sponsor, Blinkist, you can much more easily overcome this challenge, create better habits around reading and learning, transform your perception, and constantly be improving the way you think. With over 7,500 nonfiction books and podcasts across tons of different categories and topics, Blinkist beautifully curates and breaks down titles into around 15-minute summaries and key takeaways, which can be both read and listened to. Blinkist also offers personalized recommendations and daily suggestions based on books you read and topics you like, making it even easier to discover new titles you might have otherwise never known about. Whether you want to refresh yourself on Orwell's 1984 or Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, or learn more about totalitarianism and how it grew and developed in Russia and Masha Gessen's The Future is History, or learn about the various kinds of metaphorical soil most fertile for other political and social phenomena, Blinkist makes it easy to do so. Whenever you find great titles, easily share them with friends and family using Blinkist's feature, Blinkist Spaces. Based on an internal study using survey data from Blinkist customers, 95% of Blinkist members say they read significantly more than before Blinkist, and 91% say they create better habits. You can do the same and get a 7-day free trial and 40% off Blinkist's annual premium membership by using my link in the description. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching in general, and see you next video.
Yeah. Should play a game. I mean, I know y'all motherfuckers are very excited here and all, but you know, might be time for some decongestant action. Hey, Chris. I'm gonna get back to doing something interesting here shortly. Presently. Sometime. Just, I don't know. Probably just do some more kayaking. Could just do good old PCVR. But I don't know that I can do the same cool ass distributed computing thing while I'm using PCVR. But just so you guys know, if you want to use Space Desk without making a bunch of clones, I'm pretty sure you can just open up a bunch of occurrences of Space Desk in Fluid, you know, the browser, Fluid, and use the Space Desk locally that way. I wonder if we have enough space to play some Richie's Plank Experience. I doubt it. I doubt it in this bedroom that we have enough space to play Richie's Plank Experience. Oh, taking it like a grenade to the head. Son of a gun. We could try the BMX game. I side-loaded it. I totally pirated that motherfucker. And I got VR Skate again. I don't have the computer version right now, but I've got the Quest standalone version. You guys let me know what games you'd like me to play, and we can probably just pirate the things and just play them all we want. Literally. Really. I'm serious, y'all. Man, I'm getting high. I mean, life. So easy to just put whatever you want on your headset. Developer mode magic. Whoop, whoop. Daddy should learn how to code. Or I should learn how to use an AI to code VR shit for me. For real though, it would be cool if I could just set my headset up somewhere and then use the hand gestures on my actual native PC screens. Just it would be handy. I find myself trying to do gestures to control screens around the bedroom, the house, and they never work. Ooh, that made me spit. Let's get the last bit of that keef churned up here. That's a backflow keef. I don't know. Whatever's legal everywhere. That's what I'm smoking. Taking that shit to the head. Alright, give me this. Hey. Where the fuck are all my screens? Son of Oh, son of a gun. They're like right on top of me. Why? Why is everything right up my ass? How'd you come unanchored? You're supposed to be in the dock. I put you there. Hot slime skin. Whoop. All right. Let's see. What's we're gonna do here? We're gonna disconnect over here. There ain't no more virtual monitor there. Doo-doo. I need this up here for a minute. closer. Thank you. Not too far. Oh, I need some, thank you. Pink, pink. All right. Motherfuckers. We're back in action. Boy, baby. Still ain't heard from Mom this morning. I wonder what's up with that. What she's up to. Come here, we don't need that like that. There we go. Alright. Come on, I'm gonna grab that and drop it right back in there. Alright, I don't want to keep watching. No, not. Oh! My God. Okay. You know, it's one. Driving that train, high on cocaine. In case it Jones, you better just watch your speed. Yeah. Where'd it go? I lost my mouse. There we go.
Good afternoon. On today's Angry Alien Bulletin, two astronomical phenomena which started out very mysterious have now become even more mysterious. In the double star system of HD 139139, a collection
got
of
audio
massive
still.
unidentified objects have been detected by astronomers.
Good afternoon,
Objects
angry
that
astronaut.
seem to be the size of planets, but do not behave like planets. Is this some sort of strange natural phenomena that we have just never seen
would like
before
this
and have yet to figure out how
monitor,
to explain?
like,
Or do these massive
in my
planet-sized
vicinity.
objects not behave like planets because they aren't planets at all, but rather the artificial creation of an immensely advanced civilization? And in other news, if you consult the mainstream media about the phenomena occurring at
Strange
Voyager
phenomenon,
Star,
alright.
also known as Tabby Star, they will tell you that the mystery has been solved for years.
I don't
that
think
is
this
being
monitor's
caused
set up for
by
touchscreen.
nothing
That's
more
irritating.
than interplanetary dust.
I
But
mean,
the
it's
question
not,
is,
and it
if
is.
this is indeed dust, which by the way doesn't behave like dust at all, then why is this dust pointing lasers at us? All of this and more coming at you on the Angry Astronaut right
So,
now.
yeah. Ooh.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another Angry Alien Bulletin. Still here at Cape Canaveral, well, actually in Titusville, where most people who work at Cape Canaveral live. Really enjoyed this experience, especially the launch that I got to watch yesterday. I got to see Falcon 9 take off from a distance of 3 kilometers, 2 miles away.
We seem to be still transmitting
US
pretty
Space
well
Force property to watch this
so far.
incredible event. If you haven't seen that video yet, you really need to check it out, especially the point to where the booster comes back to the landing facilities, which by the way are at the spaceport, or rather the Space Force
See, that worked. Now,
facility, and the sonic boom. I felt like somebody just kicked me in the chest. The force of that
problem
sonic
seems to
boom
be in
was
trying to pull my
unreal. So in any event, definitely check those things out. Plus, we've got some other really exciting stuff coming. I'm going to go ahead and read an email that was sent to me just a couple of days ago, something I wasn't expecting to get. All right, this email came from the International Astronautical Federation. They handle the IAC conference, which is the biggest aerospace spaceflight conference on the planet, even bigger than Space Symposium in Colorado. I attended this once before in 2022, but as a guest of Sierra Space, this is the first time that I've been considered under my own credentials, and I was shocked to receive this. Dear Mr. Wright, we hope this email finds you well. We are pleased to inform you that your application as media has been approved. The International Astronautical Federation is pleased to grant you a media badge for the entire duration of our Congress. Now, just to make it clear, if you're not with media, it costs over €1,000 to attend this thing. But if you're a reporter and you get approved, you attend for free, and everyone's going to be here. SpaceX, Blue Origin, anybody you can think of in the world of spaceflight is going to be at this conference in Milan. And I'm pretty sure you know where I'm headed next, and that's I need some support in order to be able to attend this. Now, my usual suspects, the folks who usually support me, they've already paid about a third of this. I'm figuring the whole thing is going to cost me about $1,500 overall. That should cover all my expenses, and they've covered a third of it. If it's something that you'd be interested in seeing me attend, because it's not just the companies, it's all the new technology that they're bringing to the table. All of these things will be unveiled to the world for the first time. When I attended in Paris in 2022, can't even begin to describe how many amazing things I got to see and how many amazing things I brought to the viewers. So if you'd like to support this, all the details are in the description. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get on to the topic at hand, which is two different discoveries. One at a star called HD 139139, something I reported on previously, and something that was recently updated by one of my favorite YouTube content creators, John Michael Gauthier, and I have his channel linked here as well. He's not quite as ambitious as I am. He's more conservative in the conclusions that he comes to. He's very cautious, which I totally support. I totally get why he comes to the conclusions that he does, but he's very open-minded, and that's something that I appreciate from anybody who studies these kinds of subjects. But at HD 139139, the thing that was unusual about it, just to catch you up quickly on the video that I made before, a number of objects were spotted transiting the stars. There are two stars in this system, in this binary system. Objects transiting the stars appeared to be planets, but they weren't moving like planets. They kept popping up at random, as if their orbital paths were changing. With every orbit, they were in a different location. That, of course, is impossible for a planet to do. And then, in subsequent observations, which just have been taken recently, things got even more mysterious. And then, if we want to talk about an even more mysterious update than that, something again that the media isn't even talking about. A search was made for laser transmissions. It's been determined, probably very correctly, that advanced alien civilizations might not use radio communication to transmit information, but rather laser communication. So a survey was made of the sky to try to see if any laser transmissions could be picked up. A laser beam originating from some sort of promising star system. Well, the search came up completely blank, except for one star. And that star was a star that's already generated lots of news. It's known as Boyajian star, and some call it Tabby star. In our search for exoplanets throughout the Milky Way galaxy, we have determined that stars have planets more often than they do not have them. We have seen planets everywhere, including orbiting things like white dwarfs, the aftermath of supernova explosions, where no planet should exist anymore, and yet there they are. We have detected these planets through a number of different methods, including watching how a star's behavior might be influenced by a sizable planet orbiting it. The star will wobble a bit, assuming that the planet is large enough and has a large enough gravitational influence on the star in question. By the way, Barnard's star, a very nearby star to us, behaves this way for reasons that we have yet to figure out. I have a video about this topic in my Patreon collection. But back to the topic at hand. HD 139139 is a main sequence G-class star. In other words, very much like our own. A little bit bigger, a little more luminous, but the temperature is almost identical, indicating that if the Earth were in the same orbital position that it is in our solar system, it would be capable of supporting life. Now, most of the information that we have about nearby exoplanets comes from the retired space observatory known as the Kepler Space Telescope. This telescope observed over 500,000 stars in one particular region of our galaxy, and as you can see from this animation, it discovered an enormous number of planets of all kinds of different shapes and sizes, orbiting all kinds of stars. And as I mentioned before, HD 139139 was just one of these stars, a G-class main sequence star with, we suspect, a small red dwarf star orbiting it, and this one had more planets than had ever been detected in the past. Now, a normal planet in a conventional orbit creates a light dip. A light dip that's the same size and configuration with every orbit. It's very predictable. This is what we have expected to find with almost every exoplanet that we've come across, and Kepler has definitely delivered on that. However, HD 139139 was completely different. At least 28 light dips were detected by Kepler orbiting this star. The dips lasted between 45 minutes and 7.5 hours. Now, for dips that were that short in duration, it suggests that the objects were orbiting very close to the star, and the star was under observation for an 80-day time period, meaning that we should have seen a repeat from some of these objects. If they were orbiting that close, they should have appeared over and over again in a regular orbit, and yet none of them did. And these objects were